Does your child or student have an IEP or need one? Then you've come to the right place. If you've been in an IEP meeting before, then you know how challenging it is to meaningfully participate when you don't know what to ask for. So in this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes and talking about what you need to bring and how to prepare with 5 tips that you need to do before every single IEP meeting so you can advocate like a pro. Hey, what's up? I'm April Rarig, your special education advocate to make IEPs and 504 plans so much easier. If you're new here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and make sure to follow us on Instagram at Rise Ed Advocacy. Here's what you need to know about IEP meetings. IEPs, also known as individual education plans, sometimes as programs, are regulated under IDEA law. The problem is, pro tip, parents aren't always given the instructions and the directions when it comes to knowing what to ask for and how to get it at the IEP table. That's exactly why in this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes and pulling back the curtain of special education, revealing those 5 tips of exactly what you need to bring to your next IEP meeting. Keep on watching this video until the very end, where I'm gonna give you all of my tips and resources that I use as a special education advocate every day so you can advocate like a pro. Okay, let's dig in. What is the first thing that you need to bring to every single IEP meeting? It's called a parent letter of attachment, also known as a PLA, and copies of your meeting notice. Okay, let's dig in. So first of all, when it comes to understanding what is a meeting notice, that's going to be a written notification from your team spelling out who's going to come to the meeting, what type of providers are going to be there, what is the purpose of the meeting, what time is the meeting, where is the meeting. Oh my goodness, there is so much in there for you to know. And just so you know, pro tip, meeting notice does not mean an email or even a phone call. I'm talking about written notification from your school. I've got a great resource called the Meeting Notice Checklist that I want you to check in the links below for a free guide. And it walks you through what to look for on your notice, how to expect things that are going to happen, and all the other information that you need to look at when you check out that meeting notice. So make sure to check in the links below for a free guide. Now let's get into that thing called a parent letter of attachment. What is a parent letter of attachment? A parent letter of attachment is something that you write to your team before the IEP meeting, laying out all the information that you want to share, concerns, and so much more. I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, so keep on watching this video. So maybe you're watching this video right now and you're thinking, well, wait a second, April's talking about what to do before an IEP, but what about after? How do you prep after a meeting? Because pro tip, the meeting is not done after you walk out. There's so much more. Make sure to check out our video, 5 tips of what to do after the IEP, that spells out exactly what you need to do after your IEP meeting. Check in the links below for the video tips. So now you know tip 1 of what to bring to the meeting. Let's talk about tip 2. Tip 2 has to do with copies of your child's or student's most recent IEPs and also of their IEP progress reports. Now, here's the deal. Pro tip, most of the time, if you're a parent and you walk into the IEP meeting, your team is not going to have copies of all the previous IEPs. That's exactly why you need to get copies so that you know what the team is reviewing, What were the previous goals? What were the previous services? And who was working with your child? Now, let's go ahead and move ahead and talk about IEP Progress Reports. What are IEP Progress Reports? IEP Progress Reports are supposed to be given to you throughout the year. Pro tip, whenever your child receives a report card, they're also supposed to be getting an IEP progress report. That means for every report card, there's an IEP progress report on every single one of their IEP goals. Did you know that? So at the IEP meeting, your team is supposed to be going over IEP progress reports unless it is your child's very first IEP. So how do you read a progress report? What's inside the progress report, and how do you know if your child is making progress? Make sure to check out our free guide that spells out inside an IEP progress report what you want to look for, what's inside of the progress report, and how to tell if your child is making progress. Check in the links below for our free guide. So let's get back to copies of your child's IEP. The challenge is, pro tip, that there are at least 7, sometimes 8 parts of an IEP. So in order to understand what your team is talking about throughout the meeting, you need to know the parts of an IEP, what an IEP looks like, and how to read an IEP. That's exactly why I created the Do-It-Yourself IEP Meetings workshop that lays out all the different parts of an IEP, what they mean, what they look like, how to ask and how to advocate like a pro, so you can walk into your next meeting feeling so much better. Make sure to check in the links below for a do-it-yourself workshop. So now we've talked about tip 1 and tip 2, and it's time to dig into tip 3. Tip 3 has to do with drafts, specifically draft assessments and draft IEP paperwork. Because the truth is, pro tip, you can request drafts from your child's IEP meeting before the IEP. Did you know that? So here's the deal. When you walk into your child's or student's IEP meeting, more than likely everyone else at the team is going to have paperwork except for you. The truth of the matter is, pro tip, that you can request for drafts. What can you ask for? You can ask for copies of the IEP progress report, present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, preferred goals or potential goals, even accommodations, teacher observations. Oh my goodness, the amount is endless. So if you want to get drafts before your child's next IEP meeting, then you need to know exactly what to ask for and how to get it. Now it comes down to exactly, let me show you the resource I have. I have something called the IEP Meeting Request Template. And what's really awesome about the template is it's an instant fillable guide, and it gives you the words that you need to ask for and all of the different areas that you can put into writing, including that parent letter of attachment that I was saying, and how to submit your letter so that when you walk into your child's IEP meeting, you have the drafts and you have all the other things we've already talked about without drama or stress. Make sure to check in the link below for a fillable template. So now we've talked about those first 3 tips of what to bring to your child's or student's IEP meeting. Let's talk about tip 4. Tip 4 has to do with outside assessment reports, or what's also called as a parent report. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. So let's touch base and talk about outside provider reports. What is an outside provider report? This could be a ton of resource. Pro tip. It could be reports from your child's tutor talking about how they're doing in testing, reports from your child's doctor, psychiatrist, or private evaluator. It could be copies of an assessment that you got done privately. It could be a note from the doctor talking about a diagnosis or a medical condition. The amount is endless. And what's really awesome about providing outside reports is that when you attach it to your parent letter of attachment, remember I talked about earlier, the workshops and the fillable templates, when you attach that, and you talk to your team and say, you know what, I would like you to review and consider this information at the IEP team. That tells the team your child has a suspected disability or an area of struggle, and you want the team to possibly give additional services and support, a pro tip, for your child in order to remediate their unique learning needs. It's kind of awesome. Now let's touch base and go back to what I talked about earlier called a parent report. A parent report basically is anything that you write as a parent and that you submit to your school talking about, here's what I'm doing with my child, here's the areas of struggles, here's their weaknesses, here's the unique learning needs, because you know your child better than anyone else. And pro tip, you've been on your child's team the longest. Now, I have another resource that I'd like to give to you. It's called the 6 Tips for Pro Communication. The truth of the matter is, pro tip, when it comes to written communication, it's all about documenting your child's unique learning needs. But you don't want to write an email or even a parent letter of attachment that's pages and pages long. So make sure to check in the links below for our free guide that lays out what to ask for and how to get it, and keeps your letter clear, concise, and to the point. And here we are at tip 5. Tip 5 has to do with bringing someone else with you to the meeting, because the truth is, pro tip, if you're the only person at the IEP meeting, more than likely there's going to be 5, 6, 7, I've seen 10 to 15 different people inside an IEP meeting. If you're the only one sitting there advocating for your child, it is so stressful. So who can you bring to an IEP meeting, and why does this matter? Let's get into who can you bring. So here's who you could bring, just a few suggestions. You can bring a parent, a significant other or a spouse, a friend, a neighbor, a private tutor, someone who does assessments, your child's doctor or specific therapist, and you can bring an advocate, an IEP coach, or even a special education attorney. Here's the tips. When it comes to bringing someone else at the meeting, you need to let your team know. So here's something your school may not tell you, pro tip. If you have an outside provider or an assessor or even an advocate or an IEP coach, you want to make sure to sign what's called a consent of release form. This form basically authorizes or allows your team to consult or collaborate with the team. If you don't sign this and send this to your child's school, then more than likely your school's going to get back to you and say, you know what? We're not able to talk to that person unless you sign that consent form. So it's all about finding that form. Here's another pro tip. I've found, as being a special education advocate, the best way to find that form is to talk to someone from the special education department or the records request or the registrar at your district office. They're going to know exactly what form I'm talking about. So if you want to invite an advocate or an IEP coach or even a special education attorney to your IEP meeting, you need to make sure, pro tip, that you let your IEP team know in advance. So now that you have all this information, what do you want to do with it? So I've got something called the 7 Steps to a Successful Meeting. Make sure to check in the link below for our free guide. And it basically lays out all the different things you can do to have a successful meeting. What am I talking about? I'm talking about having a meeting that's productive, the things get done, there isn't as much yelling, and you can actually get through the entire IEP meeting so your child can get what's called the offer of FAPE, or free appropriate public education. Make sure to check in the links below for our free guide. So now you know what to bring to your child's next IEP meeting and how to prepare, specifically those 5 tips so that you can advocate for your child's or students at their next IEP meeting. Here's the challenge. Now that you have all of this information, what do you want to do differently before your next IEP meeting? It's a great one. You got a question? Make sure to type it in below. Want me to do another video? Yep, put that in the comments below. too. Make sure to like and subscribe to get more videos like this straight in your inbox, and follow us on Instagram at Rise Ed Advocacy. Make sure to check in the links below for our free guides, fillable templates, workshops, you name it, I've got the resource for you. I'm April Rarig, your special education advocate. I can't wait to see you for our next video.